He plays queen d3. He's obviously got to protect it. It's being attacked twice by my bishop and my knight, and so it's only defended once. Now I played queen e6, again trying to triple the attack on this pawn. Now there's 3 pieces attacking this pawn and only 2 pieces defending it. So he plays knight d2, 3 times defending it. Again, I'm starting to tie him up a little bit. I don't have any obvious continuation. The fact that I had a slight advantage, with him with the doubled c-pawns and myself with the 2 bishops, is really one of the main reasons why I decided not to go for the bishop sacrifice, as I discussed before. So I play knight d7 over here. Again, if you look at this move over here, to keep the pressure on this pawn over here doesn't really make sense. I don't really have any other way to attack it. This space over here is he's controlling by 2 pawns, a knight, and a queen, so I'm never going to be able to push this d pawn very quickly. So instead, what I wanted to do is centralize my knight and open up this diagonal for my bishop. So I bring my knight back to d7. I want to jump in here. Clearly, I want to jump into e5, and maybe put some pressure on this pawn, put some pressure on the queen, and try to basically try to centralize, try to get my pieces in better structure, and prepare a march of the f pawn. Again, there's really no other way I'm going to break through over here. I have a slight advantage, but I have to secure it somehow. I have to take advantage of it somehow. So he plays knight e2. Centralizing his knight. Maybe he wants to threaten my queen over here. If you look at my queen, it's in kind of precarious position over here. There aren't a whole lot of squares that it has to escape. He might want to move to f4. So I put my knight on e5, giving my queen an escape square, and forcing his queen to move, obviously. He plays queen b2. Now, after queen b2, I realized that my attack against this pawn was pretty futile, so I moved my queen back to c8. In case this bishop ever leaves for whatever reason, I don't want this pawn to hang. Now, he moves his knight to f4, which is what he was planning to do anyway, and I realized that he was planning to jump in here. He was planning to jump into a really, really nice outpost for his knight on e5. And furthermore, there really wasn't a whole lot I could do about that. I could move this pawn up. I could move the e-pawn to e6 to make sure his knight doesn't jump in there. But if I do that, I weaken this pawn. You see, now right now it doesn't look like this d-pawn would be very weak. But eventually, if this e-pawn ever moves, this d-pawn is going to be a very, very big weakness, because it can never move because of these 2 strong pawns, guarding this square. And if he ever gets the rook, another rook, maybe a queen, on this file and attacks this pawn, if this pawn is over here, if this pawn is on d3, I don't think there's really any way in the long term I'm going to be able to defend that d-pawn. So I don't want a d-pawn weakness. I'm willing to let him put his knight over here in order to avoid the weakness of the d-pawn over here. And I can always trade it off with the bishop. Now, yes, that would allow him to undouble his pawns and really even the game. But I figured worst comes to worst, I could always do that. So I played my bishop back to d7. Again, just figuring that if this knight jumps in here, well, now all of a sudden my original plan to sacrifice opens up again. I mean, if you think about it, if he ever moves, if this were the position, and he moves his knight over here, well, boy, then obviously I have to worry about check. I have to worry about the king-queen fork over here. But let's say, for example, my rook was over here. Well, then now this idea of sacrificing this bishop on h3 gains some life. I mean, for example, if we go like this, then obviously he doesn't have knight h2 anymore, and the queen isn't over here to jump in. And now all of a sudden, something like this threat is devastating. I mean, yes, for the time being, it's protected by his knight, but maybe if we do something like this, and then I can threaten to bring my bishop. Well, this was over here. I can threaten to bring my bishop over here, threatening the king. The point is that I would have a much stronger attack on the king side, based on the fact that this knight and the queen were no longer actively involved in the defense. And so that's why I moved my bishop back to d7 over here. So he jumps in knight d5, which has been his plan for a while. Obviously, I have to worry about the king-queen fork over here, so I play rook e8. Now he plays bishop b4, looking to split my pawn structure. And I guess this bishop right now is defending this knight, but, looking to pinch in and, just centralize his pieces a little bit more. I played e6 over here. Now, I realized, yes, in the long term, this might be a weakness, but I've got to kick this knight out. I mean, this knight is just going to cause too much havoc. So he has to move his knight back to e3. I played queen c6. Then he plays rook a b1. That move, I think, lost him a little bit of time, if you think about it. I don't know really what that accomplishes. I guess what he's thinking is that if this knight leaves this diagonal, for whatever reason, then this bishop is gonna have an attack. Maybe he wants to push this pawn, and he's setting up a push of this pawn when the queen moves out of the way. But either way, that's what he played. Now I played g5. The reason why I played g5 over here is, again, I'm still a little uncomfortable about the central positioning over here. This bishop has tension on this knight, and I want this bishop to have more access. I want this bishop to be able to roam a lot more freely. I want to put the question to this bishop, so to speak. If the bishop moves back, it's forced, it's more marginalized from the board. Also, I'm not really worried about my king pawn weakness because he really doesn't have any way to attack at this point. So he goes ahead and trades. Bishop takes e5. And then I, of course, take back with my bishop. And what that does now, in addition to having the doubled c-pawns, now I have two bishops against two knights. And in this kind of a position, even though in closed games knights are considered very strong, this is the kind of game that could be open relatively quickly because I have the f-file that I'm going to push pretty soon. I have a rook that can get involved over here, and I'm feeling pretty strong about this game at this point. He plays knight g4. Obviously, he wants to trade off this bishop. This bishop is going to be very strong. It's a pivotal outpost right in the middle of the board. He also would like to double my pawns. So I drop my bishop back to g7. Again, I'm perfectly happy along this long diagonal. That's bishops. The old dragon bishop, so to speak, is on the it has the long diagonal over there that it likes. So what he does, he realizes the play is now on the king side, and he swings his queen over to f3, either trying to prevent the pawn march or at least getting the queen over to the side of the board where the action is gonna come. But to me, I want to get my bishops involved. I start my pawn march anyway. F5, trying to bust open these files over here, get my rooks involved, get my two bishops, which can be very strong. Notice the two bishops are, with two empty spaces in between them, can crisscross and control a whole lot of space in this area of the board. He plays e takes f5. E takes f5 again. This rook is now on an open file. This knight is being threatened over here. So he puts his knight back on h2. And of course for that, because then if I trade, he doesn't have to take back with the g-pawn. If he ever has to take back with the g-pawn, then he really has bad pawn weaknesses over here. So I played rook e7. What I want to do, clearly, in the long run, is I want to try to get doubled rooks on this file and get a rook down over here to the 7th rank, or in this case it would be the 2nd rank, but from my perspective it's the 7th rank. Rooks on the 7th rank, they call them pigs because they eat up all the pawns, and rooks can be very, very strong on the 7th rank, and if I can't just put it, if I, for example, would trade off the queens, and he takes it with the knight, then I put my rook, it doesn't help, because then he just moves either of his rooks to d1, and then I can't really keep a rook on the 7th rank, or at least I can't firmly establish it there. What I want to do is first I want to establish doubled rooks on this file, and then I want to bring it down. So he plays queen takes c6. He wants to. The tension over there really wasn't helping him. His queen really wasn't doing much. I guess my queen was in a little bit of a stronger position. So I play bishop takes c6. I don't want to incur a pawn weakness if I don't have to. Now he plays rook be1. So really, for the reason that I put the rook on the 2nd rank before, I slide my rook over, and my other rook over, and it's rook ae8. Now, rook ae8 gives me central control over this file. Again, he can reestablish eventually by, let's say, moving this pawn and then getting his king over there. By that point, maybe I'll slide my bishop in. But either way, as you can see, I have control over this file. He either has to trade, in which case I'll still have control over the file, or he has to move the rook out of the way, because right now this rook is being attacked. This rook is being attacked twice and only defended once. So he trades off the rooks. Rooks take e7, rook take e7. Again, material is still even, but you can see how my advantages are starting to increase. This is a very slow, very methodical game. I thought about early. I thought about the wild sacrifice, the crazy move, and instead I played it safe. And now I have a situation where we each have 7 pawns, but he has doubled pawns on the c file, and I have all the connected pawns.